welcome into Ring the Bell Investing with the Masters of Marketocracy. I'm Dan Leach, your guest host tonight, and joining me for our first ever live show is the king of them all, the CEO and Chief Investments Officer of Marketocracy Masters. It's the great Tony Mitchell, the T-Man in the house. How you doing?
Thank you, Dan. You always embarrass me with that king stuff, but thank you.
Well,
great to have you here hosting our podcast.
Listen, it's a brand new era. We're live for the first time ever. I spent 4,221 hours preparing this, so I hope you know, I'm kidding. But we put a lot into this, and I'm excited to go live. And we also have with us in a very emotional way as well, it is the Chief Technology Officer of Marketocracy Masters and Master PM, the great Glenn Braunworth. Glenn, how you feeling?
Okay, how are you doing tonight? Good to be
here.
You
gonna go over there and play some Chopin on the piano?
Yes, I'm looking for my background right now, so I'm on the up and up here. So just give me a second here.
It's all right. All the reason to show up early, like we discussed. No, but it's great to have you guys both. There's a lot that we're going to get into tonight, and I want to let people know that, you know, this is the first time, obviously, the show has ever been live. If you have any comments, please put them in. We'll get to any comments that obviously are appropriate, but put those in the chat, and we'll get to those throughout this show. Just a little bit before we get started here on me, Tony and me go way back. He's a father figure and a legend in many different ways, as you well know, Glenn. But I've known Tony for a long time. I worked with Tony with the National Alliance of Mental Illness that Tony is such a big part of, with our good friend Leon Judge and Vince Troy and many other people. And that's kind of how we met, and we've become great friends since then. I'm a longtime sports broadcaster. I cover entertainment, finance, and movies and music as well, but mainly a bit in sports. People that are watching might recognize me from 97.1 The Ticket, for my work at WHMI, but obviously I love the markets. I worked for Benzinga for a couple of years, covering all this stuff, interviewing CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, going to different events and you know, talking about digital assets and where we're at in the market today. So this is definitely something that I really enjoy doing, and I'm looking forward to talking with both of you. And let's get started with this. And you know, Tony, when it's an historic week. We're seeing this rare paradox when it comes to the market and investing and just kind of the world. You got record-breaking stock prices coexisting with like absolutely super intense geopolitical drama that seems never ending with who's in the White House right now, whether you love him or hate him. And I want to start with you, Tony. And I got to ask you, though, with all this stuff going on, Planet Money. I know it's a new book just released. It was written by Alex at NPR. And there's a whole chapter about you, Marketocracy, and stock picking. Tell us about that and obviously how things are kind of bleeding together with all this craziness going on in the world, but how the market seems to still be going up. I know the S&P hit a new record. We'll get into that in a minute, this week, but it's a crazy time. But tell us about Planet Money as well.
Yeah, sure, Dan. Thank you. And you wrapped about 5 questions in there, so I'll try to answer one. About
it's rapid fire, Tony. Rapid fire.
I'm just honored to have Alex have included me in the book for one chapter about stock picking, my story and the story of Marketocracy. It was really an honor. He'd interviewed me a couple of times in the last couple of years. He spent a lot of time writing this book. And, for a while, it sounded like it was a long ways off, but here it is. It was released, I think, last week. And, the one thing I'll say, and it was, I'm honored to be in it. I think the crux of his chapter, though, was maybe most people shouldn't try to do what I did in picking stocks. But I don't totally disagree. I kind of disagree with that because that's part of the reason Marketocracy is here is we're not only managing money for people that want to follow our portfolios, but we're also doing things like tonight's podcast to help people, to help the everyday investor that want to do it themselves. We have the newsletter that we do every week, and there are a lot of great things to help people if you do want to invest. If you don't, we're here to let you ride our coattails in our portfolios. But it was great to have that honor of being in the chapter about stock picking.
Yeah, if people want to, sign up for that newsletter, you just mentioned it, scrolling across the screen right now, marketocracy.io. Tony, the only book I ever made was the Oakland County Police Mugshots, 1999. So you're already way. Glenn was in War and Peace, so there's a lot of good stuff on both your ends.
Well, you know what? kicked off my market accuracy career really was when I was written up in Forbes in their 2015 investment guide as an unknown all-star investor. And that's really kind of what got me started with marketocracy. I mean, I participated in the marketocracy contests starting in 1999, but it was in 2014 when the CEO, Ken Cam, reached out and said, hey, you've beaten the top money managers over the last 10 years, and you want to do something more with it? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So got that article in Forbes, and now I'm in this book and just trying to help a lot of people invest.
The legend grows. And, before we get it, I alluded to, we're seeing this crazy time with the SP breaking records and all this strife around the world. I wanted to give both of you guys a chance because there's probably people that are maybe joining us for the first time because the show is live, and I know you guys normally do it and record this. But, I'll go to you first on this, Glenn, just to let people know that are maybe tuning in for the first time what this show and kind of Tony talked a little bit about it, what Marketocracy is all about.
Well, we're a registered investment advisory, so we're licensed by the SEC. And what we do is we run portfolios where we put our own capital behind models of stocks. And what we request or ask people to do to sign up is to actually follow behind us. And for a very low fee of less than 1%, you will actually you'll actually follow along with our investments. So if we buy stock X or we sell stock X, whatever we do, you would actually follow along with us in your portfolio. And so our main goal is to hopefully beat the indexes. And if you invest with our company, you follow along with what we do. And since we have real money on the line, we're basically putting our money where our literal mouth is with this situation.
No, it's awesome.
So if we do well, you guys do well with us too. And knock wood, I know we started right before 2022 with one of the worst financial years in a century. But I think we've done pretty well actually coming out of it as a company. And I think our performance has been very good compared to the majority of fund managers on the stock market right now. And right now, I think Tony's actually outperforming everybody in our group of 7 masters that we have. There's 7 people. And I actually just broke even for the year. So I'm just a little bit behind the indexes. But I think Tony's done really well with like Boeing this year. That's one of his. And so if you were in his portfolio, you would buy a percentage of stock in Boeing based on the percentage of the whole portfolio that Tony would actually be running. So whatever he would do, if he likes to buy this company or likes to sell it, you would just follow along with him, and you don't have to do anything else but actually, continue to invest, because that's the most important thing that we talk about with our company.
No, beautifully said. And it's a novel concept. And Tony, just to piggyback on that, and obviously you kind of, alluded to this a little bit earlier, but what you guys are doing is trying to help everybody win. And we're in a world right now where a lot of people are losing. It's a nice concept to try to have everybody win, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was spoken very eloquently by Glenn. I just want to add that as a registered investment advisor, we have a responsibility too. So Marketocracy not only lets you invest behind our portfolios, which are mostly geared, as Glenn said, to try to beat the S&P. They're a little bit more aggressive, but we need to have portfolios that fit everybody's needs. So we have 9 different house models besides our portfolios that people can invest in. We do risk assessments. And for somebody that's, quite older and retired and doesn't want to take as much risk, we have different models, dividend models, international models, bond models to spread their investments out to make sure that everybody's investing properly.
No, beautifully said. Well, let's get into some stuff that obviously is tangible that's happening right now. And I kind of talked about it a minute ago about the SP 500 this week hitting a new record at 7,137. I'll start with you, Tony. Is this a peak or a plateau? Is this market, in a bubble like many people think, or is this growth sustainable? Because, like I said, we're in this really wacky time where we're seeing record-breaking prices. A lot of times the market's moving when the president says something or doesn't say something, but there's crazy stuff going on all over the world.
It is a crazy time, and the markets are definitely climbing the proverbial wall of worry, but I think we're still going higher this year. It's hard to say that with so many geopolitical tensions around the world, but I feel that we're trying to create peace, not war, for the most part. And actually today there was some breaking news that ambassadors for Israel and Lebanon were in the White House, and they've extended a three-week ceasefire between those two countries. So there's progress being made, and that should help the markets over the next few weeks. I think it's going to be a good year. Earnings are coming in strong. I think we still have ways to go on the upside.
I definitely knew about the breaking news you talked about. When you said breaking news, I thought you were going to talk about the soldier that got arrested for winning $400,000 betting on the war. And that just broke about an hour or two ago. There's obviously a lot of insider trader going this prediction markets. It's nuts. Glenn, when it comes to this market being a bubble or not, what are your thoughts?
So me and Tony over the last 2 years, we've gone back and forth over the S&P, based on our risk assessment. The year before last, I said we would actually hit 6,000 from 5,000, and I hit my number by the end of December. So I was happy with that. Now, last year, I was a little bit more conservative, and Tony said we were going to hit, 6,500 to 6,600 by the end of the year, and we hit that. So this year, I think I'm being a lot more optimistic, even with all the chaos in the world. And if Baron von Rothschild was right 300 years ago, it's good to buy when the blood's flowing in the streets.
That it definitely is. Now, something else I want. Now, listen, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I know my geography. I knew what the Strait of Hormuz was. I'm sure both of you guys did as well, going back since I was in school. But it's obviously currently the most important waterway in the world. I want to go to you first here, Glenn. How long do you think this blockade is going to last? And also, I know a lot of people are asking what happens to their portfolio if oil stays above 100, which it's been, for a while now. At least maybe not as long as people think, but it seems like it's been a while ever since this war started. And how can we be breaking records in the market while these tensions are so high in the Middle East?
Well, it goes to show that the American dollar and our system still works pretty well, and that this goes back to post-World War II when we built the Bretton Woods system and we built the global economy kind of around what we wanted, which was trade. And that actually was built for us. So if other countries want to go their own way, we make a lot of our own stuff here, but we still need inputs like potash, for example, which is a mineral we use for growing food. 90% of it comes from Canada. But most of these things that we actually bring into our country, they're local between Canada and Mexico, our two largest trading partners. However, the Gulf of Hormuz, Europe needs it. Asia needs it. China really needs it. So I think it will actually affect them a lot more.
Yeah, isn't Australia going to run out of gas soon?
Yeah, but here's the paradox of what's happening. This is going to push people into renewable energy quicker than anything else. And earlier on in the year, on our calls that we do every month on Marketocracy Masters, I said this is the year of the battery, because so much has changed in the last 5 years with batteries that they're getting cost comparable with any kind of fossil fuel on the market. And when you're living in Australia, the southern coast of Australia, they installed 100,000 batteries in 6 months for households. So that means that people are going to go to more batteries, more solar panels. The more they see how their businesses are being affected by lack of oil and gasoline and everything else that they need to actually run their economies on. So I think this is going to push more people into solar and batteries, actually. And this is the paradox. It's like if you're running your widget factory and you need gasoline, and gasoline costs this, and solar starts to go down, and if you see the cost curve of solar, it actually broke through the floor of what wind power is. That now batteries are getting so cheap that there's certain magic numbers in the world. It's 100 kilowatts. It's 100 watt hours per kilogram. I think that's what it is, or kilowatt hours. And if you can break that threshold with batteries, you basically get below the threshold of natural gas. That's the big thing, liquid natural gas, right? And now everybody's like, well, maybe batteries and solar might actually be cheaper because you still have to import that physical gas, that coal, that oil from somewhere else, but you don't have to import solar, just comes out of the sky. This is going to be the paradox of this whole disturbance in the global energy markets. It's going to make solar and batteries look like the best deal you've ever seen. Once you buy the equipment, the fuel is free.
It's such a great point, too, because a lot of times, innovation comes out of necessity, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Tony, I wonder what your thoughts are. And like I said, obviously, I think the three of us and many people watching might have known what the Strait of Hormuz was, but a lot of people are like, Strait of Hormuz, it sounds like a taco stand. obviously, this is a big part of the world and a big part of how 20% of the oil goes through there. And as Glenn alluded to, this could push. I remember obviously covering this at Benzinga, where getting into investing in solar, getting into investing into alternative energy sources could be a major play. And obviously, a lot of people want us to be less dependent on oil in the first place. We might not have a choice. So this could be a good thing, as far as I mentioned, when it comes to innovation. Where are you at with this, Tony?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the future of electric too. I think that even though we've seen a little reversal in the auto companies, they're still pushing out the hybrids. I think it's just a matter of habit and people getting used to it. But I definitely see electricity as the future. And Glenn is all over that battery play. Another one of our masters, Dan Wyman, has been all over First Solar as a great play. And I think it's a great long-term play. And that's what we are here at Marketocracy Masters, is mostly long-term investors. And, I think we're able to hit these new highs right now, despite everything going on, because this is what happens historically. When you get major geopolitical events like wars, the market crashes and then it bounces back before the end of the conflict. So, yeah, can we go backwards again, depending on what happens here? Absolutely. But if we keep making progress, we'll keep going and making some new highs from here. So
great stuff. Great points by both you guys. And I want to move on to this. Definitely something that I covered a lot when I was at Benzinga was the Fed. Those governors like to talk a lot, but this is obviously a big deal. And Tony, when it comes to the transition between current Fed Chair Jerome Powell and his potential successor Kevin Warsh, I know that this is your joke. It's created a rare tension that we haven't seen since Alexander Hamilton fought a fatal duel against a sitting U.S. Vice President Aaron Burr in 1804. So there's some more history for you. Tony, will Kevin Warsh be more aggressive with interest rates? And what is the deal with the DOJ probe into Powell? I mean, it's talk about more crazy stuff going on around the world, around the markets. Markets go up and there's all this uncertainty. I remember when I would cover, different Fed governors, or obviously Powell, giving his speeches. It moves the market. So obviously it matters what those guys are saying, and it matters what the Fed is doing.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Who would have thought, and probably there's so many people that even when you said about the duel between Hamilton and Burr, people just are like, what? You got to be kidding me. And that's about what's going on nowadays. It's like unbelievable. I mean, the first step is getting Warsh nominated, and I think he will eventually, but it's a political game right now over Powell's possible incarceration, which is ridiculous too. So if we can get beyond this, which we will one way or another, and Warsh gets nominated, well, he's been nominated, it's just confirmed. But once he's confirmed, there is no question interest rates are going to go down. It's going to be a little different Fed. He's talked about reeling in the governor, so there's not as much governor speak because he does have some different philosophies. But I have no doubt that interest rates will go down, and it's going to be a further boom for the markets. So the old adage of you can't fight the Fed is in play right now. We just got to get through this nomination and confirmation process.
No, for sure. And Glenn, it's, like Tony kind of talked about, it's, and I mentioned, covering this myself. I remember, when I was not as, detailed and granular covering markets, let's say 15, 20 years ago, I still knew how important it was when the Fed had their meetings and their minutes and the different governors who like to speak for undying amounts of time. But we're in this just wacky situation where the Fed, it seems like at times, is being toyed with when it's supposed to be completely independent. So I just wonder where you fall down on this and how aggressive you think the DOJ is going to be with this Powell stuff. I think they should be, nothing should happen. It's ridiculous. But I wonder where you fall on this.
Yeah, I believe this is just, it's like a slap lawsuit. It's just a way of attacking him when they're trying to do the nomination for the next guy. And unfortunately, this new guy, he has, his name appears in those files that are out right now. So his confirmation might be a little bit more up in the air at this moment.
I've never heard. What files are you talking about? Is this the alien stuff?
Yeah, not those files. A certain person.
Watch that movie Disclosure. Spielberg's he's got real aliens.
But yeah, I think Jerome Powell's he's done a pretty good job over the last 5 years, considering that Mr. Trump has actually put him in that position 8 years ago. And he's done a good job. But I think this is just a ridiculous lawsuit. These guys go through a lot of background, discovery before they're ever put into these positions. And like you said, on independence, on that position, yes, the Federal Reserve needs to be independent to actually prevent political interference, because everybody would interfere, and that's exactly what's going on right now. So when it was created in a way to be kind of outside the interference of Congress, where they mess around with stuff all the time. Everybody would just say lower it to zero. But in the real world, you cannot have 0% interest. It just doesn't work. It's like a weird natural grease of the economy. You don't want too little, you don't want too much. It's like 2 to 4% of inflation grease. If you go down too little, it actually makes things overheat, where the other way it slows it down. There really is, it's part profit, it's all margins and stuff like that, but that's necessary. But he'll drop it, but he can only drop it so much before it actually does the opposite effect, and people have talked about stagflation like we had in the 70s.
Yep.
That could happen again. It sounds like that's what happened with Japan. They had 0% interest for 10 years, and they finally raised interest rates. And paradoxically, their economy started to move like an old battleship. It's like, well, what do you know? They're greasing the economy with some interest rates there, So it's something that's necessary, but not too much. But I do believe if he gets in, it'll definitely go down at the beginning.
As I love to say, what a time to be alive, both for better and for worse. And speaking of an incredible time to be alive, another thing that obviously I've covered very, very closely when I was at Benzinga and just in general, and I know you guys are on top of it, is AI. And I wonder, I go back to you here, Tony. When it comes to the AI trade, is it back for real? Let's talk about companies like GE Vernova, obviously that I'm very familiar with, and everyone knows about Tesla, proving that AI is finally making money. I know a lot of these companies, talk about a .com bubble type thing, when there was all this investment being put in these .coms that had no profit or, no way to show it. There's been a ton of money put in AI. And obviously they're building data centers, and sometimes they're not because people are rising up against them, including here locally in Michigan, in Romulus. But there is obviously, billions and billions and trillions of dollars being put into AI. Where do you fall when it comes to the AI trade? Because it obviously is something that is not going away. It's going to obviously take away a lot of jobs, but hopefully give us more jobs in different ways, and obviously be lean and mean when it comes to, efficiency. But it's both an alarming but fascinating thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer in AI. I've been using it recently because it's finally at the point where it is very helpful for certain things, and looking forward to what it's going to do in addition in the future. And I'm not sure exactly what inning we're in as far as AI investments. There's some things that seem pretty frothy, but yet there's a lot of people saying we're still in some early innings for AI. And so you have to be cautious, but today's a perfect example. Intel, which has been raised from the dead here recently, reported today after the bell, and they popped like $17 on the report, which is, like 20%. It's unbelievable. And on the heels of that, AMD, which has been running like a chicken with its head cut off recently, jumped $20 in the after hours, which is 15% raise for AMD. So I love to see it, and I wish I owned more. I'm a big AMD investor for sure. I wasn't an Intel, but so yes, I am a big believer. Exactly where we're at, I'm not sure. You have to remain a little bit cautious and vigilant, but it's going to keep going.
Yeah, I would say, this is just me. I think we're at the top of the second inning at most, maybe the bottom of the second. Glenn, what do you think? AI, it's obviously not going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger. But like I kind of alluded to, it's one of those things where there's a lot of money being put into it to a lot of these companies. And Tony, you mentioned too, obviously there with AMD and Intel, that, the stocks are going up. But a lot of times I know that investors can be worried about some of these companies being propped up when they're not really necessarily making any money. People are just pouring into them. And obviously a lot of the market watchers are watching what NVIDIA does. And that's kind of when their earnings come out, everyone holds their breath. It's obviously here to stay, but is it something that, and I know you guys are completely, dialed in on this, is it something to be cautious with? Or is it like kind of Tony mentioned, I don't want to say the Wild West, but there's so many ways to make money in it?
Well, I do believe like we might actually be at the beginning of the first. So,
all right. So we just have like a 1-2 count. Second,
yeah.
Torque's coming up. Maybe
Yes.
he's gonna try to get a single.
Yes, I think that every time you hear in the media, everybody talks about the bubble. Actually, I think that means there's actually more runtime to it because people talked about that in 1997, with the web boom and everything. But the difference is a lot of these companies, if they were actually making profit and they had revenue, then you can't really dispute it. These companies are making profit. Somebody's buying the product. Somebody's buying the hardware. Somebody's buying the infrastructure. There's actual money coming in. Like I mentioned Boeing before, with the military doing everything now, I'm sure they're always buying new products and stuff from Boeing, or now they're buying chips from Intel or AMD, actual physical things. Now, we have to worry about there was a company called Allbirds. It was a shoe company. And what they do, they announced they were going to get out of selling shoes and they're going to get into building data centers because
it's an easy transition.
Exactly, from shoes to data centers.
It's like being a watermelon person than making bombs for the military.
Yeah. And so there's another company, it's called Quantum Computing Inc. And they used to sell car parts or something.
Yep.
And now they're going to get into that. It's like you got to know the background of the company. Like the companies we've mentioned, they've been around for decades. Boeing's been around for a century. NVIDIA's been around since the early 90s. Intel's been around for plus 50 years. So they go through these ebbs and flows in the technology industry, and we could be in that little flow. But the thing is, somebody wants your widgets and the money's coming in. You can't really deny it, where it's not vaporware with a lot of other technologies. Like AI does work. 2 years ago, it was mediocre. But now when you use a Gemini, if you use Anthropic.
I use it all the time, man.
If you use it, it does work.
I used it for my resume recently.
Yep. Now, does it have its cons? Yeah, the pros are that it does work. The cons are there's hallucinations. It creates fake stuff. It can't get text right. It distorts things. Sometimes you just make stuff out of the blue, that kind of thing. But I think they're building in safeguards, and it's kind of like when you were a kid, you were told to show your work when you do something. That's really what it is. So people can actually go back and see what it's doing. And one article I've seen recently where the guy was saying, I don't know what's in the code I'm shipping, because they're generating so much code with the AI that they really don't know what's in there. So do we really want to let it run and just create a black box, which is a lot of what this stuff is? And some of the researchers at Meta, they're like, we don't know what it's doing. They really don't know what it's doing at a certain point. It's magic, So as long as there are controls and we see this as something important, but we have to protect it. It's like you want to let it get out of the cradle without it, burning the house down, that kind of thing. That's where
for sure. And look, there are so many advantages and good things. And by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's a great movie that came out last year called Mountainhead with Steve Carell and Rami Youssef and some others about what could happen if AI isn't reined in. It's a great satire movie, so people should check that out. It's on HBO Max. But there are so many positives. Mm-hmm. It's definitely something that you have to be careful with. As you mentioned, Glenn, I'm trying to remember. I read something last week. I can't remember what the company was, but it might have been Google Gemini. They were looking into stuff. You mentioned the hallucinations. This was more about AI trying to keep itself alive. That if it was being threatened to be taken away, it was going to lie to you and cheat and steal. I mean, it's. But at the same time, and you mentioned this too about my nephew is a freshman in high school, and these days they can check to see if people are using AI. At the same time, AI can help you learn at such an exponentially fast level compared to when I used to love the feel of my Encyclopedia Britannicas back in the day, looking up different countries and history. But now it's at your freaking fingertips. So there are so many advantages, but at the same time, it's got to be regulated, reined in, but it's not going to affect the investing part because these companies are racing to the top of the mountain right now. And there's a lot of different things that are going to be coming out of this that are going to be great for humanity. We just got to be careful, I think.
Mm-hmm. The picks and shovels, as they used to say.
Yes.
You buy the picks and shovels, somebody else is going to figure something out. It might not be right now, but these kids who are doing using AI, I think it was NYU, they're trying something where you can use any tools you want, but when you go to do an examination, it's person to person. You're actually sitting in a room across from your professor or professors, and they actually ask you questions. And if you don't know it, you're not allowed to use your phone, or you could use your phone. It's kind of like you either know the subject when they're talking to you in person or you don't. they say that we made a mistake on not teaching kids cursive writing anymore, because writing the letters in cursive actually connects them in people's brains, and that actually helps people learn letters and words. And we need to actually go back to that, even though we have these digital tools. Like you said, it has its pros and cons, and in an investing sense, vote for the pros.
Unfortunately, mad respect though to my second grade Forest Elementary School teacher, Mrs. Ugonia, who taught me cursive. I sucked at it, and I people can never understand my writing, but it definitely, learning those letters, man, it connected with my ADD brain. So I'm with you on that. Tony, anything to add there? I know that obviously it's a fascinating discussion when it comes to AI in general, but also when it comes to the market too, because there are going to be some great plays that you guys have been on top of and will continue to be on top of when it comes to investment in AI.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is I see it benefiting Marketocracy and all of our clients in the future too, as we incorporate it into more. I've been using it a lot for a lot of research, and it helps save me a lot of time in doing a lot of research.
Absolutely. All right, still got a little time left. A couple more things I want to get to, and then I do definitely want to. You've been seeing this roll across your screen. Before we get out here, I got to talk to you both about this virtual portfolio contest. That's right up my alley, because I come from the gambling world as well. So I'm very excited about that. People can show off their skills. But Tony, I want to talk to you about Tuesday's retail sales data. I know a major concern really kind of emerged from that because you're seeing some negative stuff. Is the American shopper tapped out?
Overall, I don't really think they are. I think that the American consumers are as bifurcated as the political world is right now. And you do have some people struggling, obviously, so we don't want to forget them. But I think we're still at a point, we have to look at what happened during COVID and the massive increases that a lot of people started seeing in their wages. Think about, minimum wage going from like $7.50 to $15 practically overnight, almost across the country. And I know some of it's still going up, so I don't want to generalize that too much, but it's a pretty significant increase for that lower middle class income earner. That's the one that's typically struggling. And, did their car payments double? Yeah, if you're buying a new car, some of the car payments went up a little bit. But if you're in your house, your rent, none of that really jumped a whole lot until it's time to renew rent, of course. But if you have a house payment, that payment's the same for 30 years. So I think a lot of consumers are seeing the benefit of that. And I think the pullbacks right now are more related to the war and concerns and fears. So, American Express is saying they're not seeing it in their consumers. So I think we're good. I don't think we're in a bad place right now with the consumer.
Glenn, where are you at with it?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to actually get a grasp on this completely. But if you go out to eat, or if you go to the grocery store, people are going to buy toothpaste and detergent no matter what. But you can definitely tell in the supermarket that beef prices have gone up and coffee prices are through the roof. That other things go through the Strait of Hormuz, right? Coffee, and so everybody wants coffee on Earth. And so I think the inflation is kind of slowing things down, but from what's going on in the markets and what money is being made by these companies and generated, it looks like people hate it, but they deal with it somehow, right? And
they find a way. They always find a way.
They find a way, exactly.
They have to make some tough decisions sometimes. All right, am I getting milk or am I getting beets? I don't know why I use the beets, as I hate beets, but you get my point.
Yes. But people are taking cruises. They're traveling. They're
going to Vegas.
They're going to Vegas. They're buying, cars. They're buying, computers, and obviously from Intel and AMD's results, it's not just the data centers. So, the truth is, if you look at us historically, we've been in a bull market for 20 years, and we've gone through a couple troughs in the past 12 to 18 months. And actually back earlier in April, about 3 weeks ago, that was a trough. And then all of a sudden we come out of the trough and now we're off to the races again. So 7,500 to 8,000, maybe. I think 8,000 might be a stretch, but we're barely through halfway of the year, and we're hitting 7,000 and hitting records, and the companies are making money. So I still think this is the best place, even better than gold. Even gold had a pullback recently because you have to get a yield, and even gold going up is not giving people a yield that like they could get in the actual capital market. So, so much for that hedge against inflation, buying gold. They go right back to the good place, which is the stock market, right?
Well, in the business, we call that a perfect segue, because this is something I know you guys love doing on this show, talking about, specific stocks you're interested in and whether you're buying and selling right now. Tony, are you buying or selling? And is there a stock or two that you're really kind of locked in on right now? And then I'll get that same information from Glenn.
Yeah, so this is a great question right now, because as I talked about some of these companies that have been running earlier, it's probably time to take a little bit off the table some of those companies. If you have some big profits, it never hurts to take a profit. And so I'm not chasing companies like that, but I am buying selectively some companies. I started the works on a new model portfolio today that's going to be called Plant. I'm a big believer in plant-based eating for your health, and so we're gonna have a new a portfolio available in Marketocracy in the very near future. It really, today was the inception day. It's just not out there yet. Called Plant, for people that believe in eating plants. We just made a comment about what we're eating, but I'm a huge believer that it's there's nothing better for your health than getting on a good plant-based diet. So one of the big stocks that I like in that area is Beyond. Even though I'm more of a whole food plant-based eater, Beyond actually has some of the cleanest processed plant-based foods because the ingredients that they put in there. And they're coming out with a new line of drinks that are pretty impressive. In fact, their stock kind of jumped in the last week because of the announcement of a distribution agreement that was signed. And I think that Beyond has a ways to go. It's ticker BYND. Actually pulled back a little bit today in this down market. So I added a little bit today as I started the new plant-based fund model. So I will, that's what I'm doing right now.
All right, but this is the serious question. Are Impossible Burgers good? Because I've been told by many, no. I tried one once, and I have friends that swear by them, but I wonder what your thoughts are, because they're obviously selling.
So I'll tell you this. I don't generally eat those processed hamburgers, but I was on a holistic cruise, all plant-based recently, with some of the top doctors in the country who believe in plant-based diets, like Dr. Michael Greger. And he actually did a whole seminar on the health aspects of these processed foods. And the bottom line is, the processed plant-based foods are better than eating meat and pork and chicken and fish. Are they as healthy as whole plant-based? Make it yourself? No, but they are better. And I've mentioned Beyond, their ingredient lists are a lot cleaner than some of the other companies. So right now, I think there's two most popular plant-based burgers out there. One's made by Beyond, one's made by Impossible Burger. I won't speak to what's in Impossible Burger, but I can tell you that Beyond's ingredients are pretty clean. I was pretty impressed with what I'm seeing from Beyond. And I think that they have a long and profitable road in front of them. And the stock is, even though, there's some reasons for it, I think it's pretty cheap right now.
I love it. A holistic based food cruise. But when I go on cruises, it's just Red Bulls, Monsters, crab legs, and lobster. You're not just traveling clean, you're eating clean, and you probably could jump off the side of the boat and get right back in.
It was great. Recommended for anybody.
All right. So Beyond, by the way, and I put the ticker up there. It's a NYSE stock, New York Stock Exchange, BYND. So great stuff there. Tony, by the way, we do have people checking in. How about our friend Ping Software USA 5908? I wish they could just have a regular handle, but Ping says, howdy, fellas. Mine is John H972 Ezekiel 312. But thank you for joining us, John, or excuse me, Ping. This first live show, guys. So you're getting live viewers. I love it.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us.
Glenn, let me go to you. Are you buying or selling? I mean, I guess that's kind of a loaded question because I think everyone's always buying and selling. But where are you at right now? And is there a stock or two that you're looking to? Oh, by the way, really quick, it's Trevor. His name is Trevor. Good to see you, Trev.
I am a long-term investor, so I like to be investing and buying probably more often than selling, unless a company has certain issues, and those things do happen. But right now, my technology background, I'm focused on companies in that area, and my company would be SanDisk. I think it's SNDK if they went back to their old symbol, because they used to be private. They've been around for about 35 years. They got started building hardware for the Israeli military. And then I think it's been about 10, 15 years, they were bought out by Western Digital. And about within the last year or so, they went public again, and they've been on a tear. They've just been off like a rocket ship, because what do they make? They make solid state storage. And one of the hottest things on the market right now is storage to go with data centers and AI, because when you're building AI models, you use a lot of storage, because every time you create a model, you have to create another copy of it, and then another clone, and another copy, and a copy, and a copy. So storage, which has always been a commodity item in the last 10, 20 years, has basically taken off again. And I think Western Digital spun it off because they saw an opportunity to actually show that this other part of their company is actually more valuable than just the hard drives themselves that they make. So I think SNDK or SanDisk is actually a good play for the long term. They might be a little overpriced right now, but in the long term, we're probably grossly underpriced for what they actually make.
Yeah, Glenn, I don't think that we're ever going to run out of a need for storage. Obviously, that's something that is. I have like 2 different bills that I get, for Google and for not iTunes, for my iCloud. I mean, it's. I feel like it's a racket, but it's never going to go away. So that's a great point.
Yeah. Now, when for example, when you work with video versus say audio, you have to store the show somewhere. So you either store it on your hard drive, and you have to store it online as a backup. So everybody has to have 2 or 3 times the actual amount of storage, right? And video takes up an enormous amount of capacity versus say just audio or pictures. And everybody's going to 4K. That just creates even more demand. That's why a lot of everything from Netflix and streaming services haven't gone that hardcore, because they can't actually deal with the storage and the processing of giant files. Except for Netflix, I know they forced everybody to go to 4K, but most companies haven't done it because the workflow of chips and storage and processors and everything working together wasn't fast enough to do it. Now it is, but still, nobody's going to 8K resolution, because now that's 4 times the amount of storage that you have to get. Right. So that's why even the television companies aren't doing it, because storage is just, it's like good enough, right? Things are good enough. Like a pencil is good enough, but somebody invented a ballpoint pencil, or pen, I should say, So yes, that's the thing. Where storage, will there be a point where it hits a plateau? I thought there was a plateau, but AI opened that can of worms all up again. And I think actually storage is probably going to actually scale kind of like on a curve, probably, with AI deployment, because as people build more models and they get bigger, more storage is needed.
And I like my ballpoint pen, but I do miss pencil sharpeners. And our guy Trevor Wayne in saying redundancy for AI is incredible. Hence all the data centers and buildings we kind of talked about a little while ago. And I know a lot of communities are not happy about that. That's definitely something, but they're building them all over the place, and it definitely at times can strain the electrical grid. All right, guys, before we get out of here, first off, it's been an honor hosting. I look forward to doing this again in the future. But I do want to ask you both, by the way, just to kind of recap, Tony mentioned plant-based eating portfolio on its way soon, so please check that out. Don't forget, you can obviously get all this information about investing in the portfolios of the Masters at marketocracymasters.com, and also the newsletter. You got to get the newsletter. Sign up for free at marketocracy.io. And Tony, you also talked about beyond a stock to look at. There's the ticker BYND on the NYSE, and Glenn talked about SanDisk. I'm very aware of SanDisk as well, and covered that at my time at Benzinga. That's definitely a great company, and that NASDAQ ticker is SDNK. Good memory, by the way. You guys both got your tickers nailed as I was typing them up myself. I got pretty. I never thought I was someone that was going to be like memorizing tickers, but in my work at Benzinga, I was doing a lot of news desk stuff. And I memorized like 300 or 400. It's kind of nuts. I thought I'd maybe remember 5 of them, and I remembered a lot. So I was impressed. But I want to ask you guys about something that is really, really cool. This virtual portfolio contest, which I know is coming soon. You can see how good of a stock picker you are without risking your own money. Of course, you can sign up for that. You can see it scrolling across your screen at marketocracy.io. Tony, tell everyone about this very, very novel and cool concept.
Yeah, so we're really excited because all of us masters at Marketocracy got started by participating in the original virtual portfolio contest that Ken Cam, the original founder of Marketocracy, started way back in like 1999. And so we are trying to find the next generation of masters, people that we can recruit to be portfolio managers at Marketocracy in the future. And so this lets people know how you really do against other people. And we've been working on this for quite a while. We're trying to make it right before we launch it, but it's going to be ready to go sometime in the next 30 days. And we're actually beta testing it right now. So it's going to be huge. And Dan, before I get off, I just want to put out one disclaimer. We talked about a couple stocks, but everybody's stock selections aren't right for everybody. And so while we just kind of talk about these in general, we're not recommending everybody run out and buy these because it depends on everybody's risk tolerance, where you're at in life, and what you need. So that's why we're a registered investment advisor as well, and we can help you with that. Our website you can do a free risk assessment on our website and help you with some recommendations, or speak to another financial advisor. But we just want to make sure there's a disclaimer there about that.
Beautifully said. And Glenn, this is an exciting thing. I mean, people can basically show you what they've got without having to worry about the risk of, losing any money, which is, I mean, I love it. It's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. It's like people want to go and practice before they get on the field or the court, however you want to say it. And this allows people to kind of do that and get comfortable with it. So they're not as intimidated with this, subject. And I've talked to people, and people are hesitant and afraid and sometimes ashamed even to talk about their lack of knowledge. But that's where we come in. If you invest with us, you don't have to worry about that. If we're doing okay and we're doing well, you're going to do as well as we are. And we have real money behind this. So we, like I said before, we put our money where our mouth is. But in disclaimer terms, past returns are no guarantee of future performance, as they've always said. And I'll say that too.
Good job.
That's why you guys are the masters. All right, before we get out of here, parting shots, Glenn, anything?
Dollar cost averaging is your friend, and putting a little bit in all the time is better than putting everything in all at once and just doing it over a long period of time. And it's amazing what $10 a day will do for you. It's really
definitely
incredible.
Is. Mm-hmm. Toad Squatch, parting shots.
It's amazing what eating plants will do for you too. So
that's true.
So most importantly, I want to thank Dan Leach for hosting the show tonight. It's been wonderful, and looking forward to having you back here again, Dan. This was great.
Hey, the honor and pleasure was all mine. Thanks so much to both of you. Thanks for joining us tonight, especially our guy Trevor, first live guest ever. Don't forget to like us here. And if you aren't getting the Marketocracy newsletter, what's wrong with you? Please head to marketocracy.io. Sign up for the newsletter. It's totally free. You get more information about investing in the portfolios of the masters, Tony, Glenn, and many others. And you can visit marketocracymasters.com. For Glenn Broadworth, the CTO of Marketocracy Masters and Master PM, and Tony Mitchell, the CEO and Chief Investments Officer of Marketocracy Masters, I'm Dan Leach. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars, keep your feet on the ground, and believe in the dream. We'll see you next time. Thanks again to Trevor. I think he had one more thing. He wanted to say that he loved us. All right. Thanks to Tony. Thanks to Glenn.
Thank you.
Leach, saying I'm out of here. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good day.